Hello and a warm Collisions YYC. Welcome to my returning guest, the lovely, the talented Miss Jennie Gilbert. How are you, Jennie?
I am great, actually. Thank you, Tyler. And it's so good to be back. I'm excited.
Oh,
Maybe
I love
a little
it.
nervous.
This will blend somewhere into the mix, but this is my first one back after the summer break, and there's no one better I would like to be talking to than you. We've done so many episodes together, we now no longer say how many. We're at that point in our life. It's like, when someone has a baby and they go weeks, then they go months, and then they go years. We go episodes and we just go straight to, we've done a bunch. We just graduate and smooth it out because there's no need. And then people are like, how old are you two if you've been doing that many episodes? We don't want to even get into that conversation. We've had many episodes and they've all been amongst my favorites, which I shouldn't be. I'm biased. They're all my favorites.
Thank you. And I'm excited for this one too. It's always a good conversation. That's the piece that keeps us coming back, Tyler.
The lost art of a good old-fashioned chat is my model, and I've stuck with it for almost 500 episodes. So for anyone who hasn't had the privilege, you are, leading beyond any title, leadership development for the human beyond the job title. So I love your LinkedIn, kind of almost your tagline, on top of your role officially, which is facilitator at the School for Corporate Training, School of Business at SAIT. And you've been doing that, speaking of time, for quite a while, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, been there a decade and a bit, let's just put it that way. And leading beyond any title is sort of our flagship leadership journey that is SAIT's. And my work is all in leadership development and all the fun and fluffy, as some people like to call them, skills that come with that. So a lot with SAIT, a lot in different areas, but all leadership based. And how do we find the human part again? Because every now and then we seem to be losing it a bit.
Just now and then?
Yeah, that was my kind version.
I think we'd love to lose it because it would be so much easier if it was just a schematic or a fact or a figure. But it's not. It's, as you and I have often joked, the messy humans in the middle.
It is. That's the piece that keeps it interesting.
And if you are curious, we've had some fantastic episodes around the 6 leadership intelligences, which I'm a huge fan of. You have brought so much into my world of understanding the role of psychological safety, the role of emotional intelligence, the role of the human in the loop a little bit, which we'll talk about today, even as technology plays a bigger role. So please search Collisions YYC and the name Jennie Gilbert, and you will find a library of fantastic topics. But for today, I did want to ask, I've heard it said that September is kind of like Business New Year. Are you guys hitting the ground running? Are people busy as their courses lined up? Like, what's the vibe? Everybody comes back and rubs their eyes after August.
That's so funny. I used to, in my old life, I was a school teacher. And so the year always starts in September. My New Year's is always September. And yes, actually, the next couple of months is a little bit crazy. Although it used to be quiet in the summer, and it hasn't been a quiet summer either. So I think now we just run at full speed all the time. You actually have to choose to get off the bus these days and take the time out. And that might be crucial in everything that we talk about too, is are you getting off the bus and stopping? Yeah.
Did the bus just slow down and you jumped off? Like, did it fully come to a stop? Like, what? It never actually comes to. Did you find that COVID has kind of flipped that a little bit? I've had some chat with some friends, and they're like, there used to be some seasonality to my business. Now I can't look at the last 2 years and go, what's September going to be like? Or August used to not be busy. Now August is no different than May. I think feels like COVID added to that by breaking some of those maybe habitual patterns that we had, and then the world just speeds up as well. So I don't know who to blame there. Who's the villain?
I think that's a really fair perspective, actually. Yes, like COVID just pressed a fast forward on everything, and that's one of them. Like we lost sense of time. Like you hear people talking about, I lost 2-3 years, and when we look at our small people, they lost 2 or 3 years, and we're beginning to see the effect of that too. And it's the same for us in business. So yeah.
Oh, I'm making all my notes for future podcast episodes. But for today's episode, which there are no guardrails or boundaries, but there was something we have lovely pre-chats, which I often joke we should just record because they're often just like these chats. But you made the concept of, you made a statement around 90% of the people that you work with in your role, and this is at a variety of small, large, medium, but I know a lot of large corporations in Calgary, that 90% of the people you work with are working leaders. I thought it was just such a fabulous. I love when two words come together where you're like, oh, well, yeah, but what, tell me more. Unpack that a little bit for us. Like, what is a working leader? Is this a relatively new phenomenon? And 90% could almost say everybody that you work with is a working leader. So maybe unpack that a bit for us, and let's see if it resonates for the audience as much as it resonated for me.
Yes, and it's a good question. What is a working leader? So where in our conversation where we came from was most people who are holding a title of leadership. So leader's a title, leadership's a behavior. There's the fun piece that we like to play with nowadays. So if you hold the role of a leader, ideally as a leader, your job is to lead a team. And that would be to have the team execute, obviously in high performance, to get where you want to go to. But what we're seeing now, and I think it existed before COVID, but it seems accentuated, to pick up on what we were saying before, is I hold a leader role and I'm still doing the job that I used to do. Or actually, I've lost 2 people for whatever reason, and the company said I can only backfill one of those people. So now there's the extra work, and that's been divided, and I'm one of the team, and I've got some of that extra work. So I'm doing a job and a half and trying to lead the people too. And so working leader in my frame of reference is someone who's still got the execution part of the job to do. So they have to perform highly in that area as well as have the capacity to lead other people. That would be about it.
How about if I throw the working manager in there as another title? We're gonna make it messy before we make it clear.
Okay, we'll make it messy. So, and that gets really interesting because one of the big debates at the moment is what is the difference between a manager and a leader? Is there actually a difference? And if you go scroll on your social media, probably the best representations are the Venn diagrams where you've got manager one side, leader the other side, that beautiful piece in the middle where everything collides. And personally, I think you've got to have both nowadays. And if you're looking at management as the execution of the work and all the work stuff that comes with it, you can't execute on that because you're going to have to delegate, you're going to have to explain, you're going to have to present all of those good things. Well, you've got to have that people side, that human side, and leadership truly is that human side. And in its black and white and sometimes funny, you see the management side as the stick and the driver, and then the leadership side is the inspiration and the come with me. How do we put those two together? I think those that are more successful get tagged as a great leader probably have a combination of both a lot of the time these days, especially in that working leader piece.
As we were chatting, of course, my trusty ChatGPT is never far away for the sheer amusement of it. Literally, the word enforce rules is under manager, and inspire. What's the other one that fosters growth and adaptability? Often role inspires others to achieve more. Under the leader or the manager, it actually said it said literally use the stick. It basically said that.
Oh no,
no, it did not. But enforce rules is such a heavy and setting up people for process. So when you go into an organization, let's also talk about medium to large organizations. When you work with typically larger organizations, is that where you find is there still more distinction? And as you get more down into the trenches of companies where people wear, I wear multiple hats, and today I'm wearing this hat, and I have the founder hat and the leader hat, and yes, I have a vision, but shit, we just got to get stuff done for the client on Friday. Does that shift as you go up the chain, or is it becoming more homogenized just because of the sheer pace and demand? I'm under-resourced, but I'm overtasked.
Everybody is under-resourced and overtasked. It does seem that way. Like, I think that we absorbed so much during COVID, and then we didn't let go of it. We didn't change enough in any one place, and now we're just holding everything within there. And one of the things that COVID really brought to light, like enforce those rules. And as you're saying that out loud, I'm almost having an allergic reaction. And there's our human piece in that, when your people come to work, they're adults with a skill set. So yes, enforce the rules, but how are you doing that? And there'll be people listening to this like, Jenny, that just takes so much time because now I have to talk to people and I have to understand them. And what if they are at capacity and everything else is going on?
Piece. Like every person is an individual. Yet a lot of our legacy corporate structures is like, well, we're going to mass them into a group and treat them all the same way.
And
because
then
at volume, it's hard to personalize. But yet we have technology that's personalizing maybe sometimes the wrong things in our feeds and in our channels all the time. It's an interesting
100%.
Contradictory environment, right?
It is, and the leaders that succeed are the leaders that see the human. So, your standard model is, I'm a leader, follow me, this is the way that I do it. And the leaders that are succeeding are, oh, I see you, team of 6, 7, 8, and for some people it's huge numbers, and that's hard to work with.
The old model was 6, 7, 8 was kind of the number, wasn't there some rule of thumb? And
5 to 7 or something,
okay,
I think
I know.
it was.
I was like,
I don't even know that.
You've got 8 reports, that's a lot, that's too much, kind of thing.
And if you think about it too, like if you want to lead people, you've got to understand your people. If you've got more than 8, if you're doing a one-on-one, goodbye calendar. Like, how many one-on-ones can you do?
Back to the quote-unquote working piece. Like, and what qualifies as work? Some people are like, oh, I'm in my email all the time. Like, as my role, I'm being in my email all the time or being on site and communicating with my team, with clients. That is part of my job. So be like, oh, my God, I can never get any work done because I'm always responding. I'm like, well, that kind of is my role because luckily I have an amazing people that do, quote-unquote, the work. Just thinking about even my own. And where are you giving yourself permission to do what part of your role?
And that gets really hard. Back to our working leaders. Okay, I give myself permission to get to know my people. Hugely valuable. You can't get much more value than that. I'll adapt my leadership to suit these people because that's how I'm going to get the best from them. We are aiming for high performance work. And all of a sudden, you almost have an entire portfolio there in terms of time. If we're looking at, let's just go with 40 hours. We can debate this. Should it be 32? Should it be 60? Whatever. But let's stick with 40. I still have the job to do. And this is, our leaders are exhausted because there's so much. And people are coming to work differently now as well. Like, we are at capacity. A lot of people are done. A lot of people are struggling. And we don't know it. And it's not our job to be the therapist. It's not our job to provide the couch, but it is our job to know our people. And everywhere feels full up. And then we're still trying to do the job on the side too.
And the reality of budget constraints, profitability, margin, it's not like it's just a cash grab either. Like, there's some realities that are putting pressure on businesses to stay competitive. There's always somebody new with a new shinier tool that they're bringing to the table. As companies, we treat each other really shitty. We grind our vendors down. We push them for cheaper prices. Then we wonder why we're not getting the best work. But we don't tolerate that because your team should be enthusiastic even when we gave you final changes on Friday at 5 and expect it to be done Monday morning because you're a vendor and that's your role. And why aren't we getting we're doing it to ourselves, but all in the name of, well, shit, we just got to get shit done, right? It's just a get shit done culture. It is a real double-edged sword, and you're grabbing both ends of the knife.
It's such a good point. And everything that we do is at full speed. And I think in that sentence too, everything that we do, we're doing everything. And maybe some of the secret sauce is, what is it that we actually need to be doing? And so how many priorities are we running with? What filters the decisions that we make? And we were joking about on and off the bus. But at what point do we slow down and say, what is it that we're working on? What is important here? And sort of grab that cadence again rather than the everything so fast, so quickly, and get it done.
That's challenging, but when everything's important, nothing's important. Like in our team, we haven't outlawed it because that sounds like enforcing rules. But don't say ASAP. It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing to say ASAP. No. What is it? Well, it's all ASAP. Well, then so nothing is ASAP. I was just a joke. I spent years on a racetrack with motorcycling and da-da-da. And I remember when I was riding with my wife and we were talking about it. And she said, well, I need to, I want to be set up for this corner. And we're talking about speed. And I remember the comment that I made. And it was one of those, like, I felt good about the comment because it just captured so much to me. So it was a bit of one of those ones. But speed reduces options. And when you're helping your wife be better at her motorcycling, the words you use really do matter. Like, they really matter. Are you telling me what to do? No. That is not what's happening. But that idea of speed, you have so few options left because you come into the corner too quick. If you don't know what you're doing, you either get it right the first time or you go at the back of the corner. And I find with work, we're blowing through the back of that corner along. I don't know. Sorry for bringing in motorcycle references. But that concept of speed, you slow down and everything feels safe and everything feels... But yet the outside demands of the world are causing you to always accelerate while constantly putting more corners in front of you.
That's such a good analogy. Like, I've never ridden a motorbike in my life.
Sorry, yes, completely almost irrelevant to use as
my husband would take a sigh of relief at that point too. But it's so true, and our ability to navigate what's in front of us it's harder when you're traveling at that speed, and we're losing some of in missing the pause and missing the slowdown. We're losing the depth that we used to bring to a situation, and sometimes that depth is as simple as noticing the cues of the human in front of me. There's something going on there, and if I'm running at full speed, I'm missing it. And an adage that I normally use with audiences is, think of the times when you say to somebody, "How are you today?" How many times do you actually stop and listen, or even care about the answer to that question? We don't. We're halfway down the hallway, or we've moved on and filled the space with our own voice again. And that's the simplest of, like, hello, it's a pleasantry, and yet we don't even care for the answer. And then if we take that and put that to some pretty serious work realities, problem solving, and we're moving at too fast a pace, and then we wonder why we're struggling and not navigating the bends, and then work becomes harder. And when work becomes harder, our ability to take on that capacity shrinks a little bit, and then we're struggling again. And back to what you said, we're not looking after ourselves or others.
Those wrong moves do add up, and eventually you start. Then what can be unbridled, reckless confidence tied to speed becomes second guessing, or becomes I don't know. And like, as a leader, it's easy to put all leaders on pedestals and, oh, you're more experienced, you must have all the magic answers. But a couple of missteps because of speed can really erode the confidence for that leader, and then it starts to show 100%. Up as insecurity, and it's human. So let's be clear, we're not stopping, or we're not changing the reality that most leaders are working leaders. And we'll use the word leader and manager a little bit synonymously for the fun of, like, to your point of, like, there's a Venn diagram and there's a little bit of two sides always. From a tactical perspective, or is it taking a pause? Is it learning some more, becoming more self-aware about catching yourself when you're getting triggered, or you're reacting, or when you're like, whew, you know what, let's just slow down here. Like, from a coaching perspective, because we can go and change the environment, or we can get better. It's like, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothes. It's cold today, put on a better jacket. It's not cold anymore. If I think about it from that perspective, we might be able to judge the world that we live in, but for many of us, I'm going to show up today no matter whether I listen to this podcast or not, and that world will be waiting for me. How have you found, or what are some of the, I'm going to call them tactics for lack of a better word, strategies, tools in the toolkit that those working leaders, managers can use to help balance off the fact that maybe their work environment isn't going to change tomorrow, but they can?
I think, and you talked about this right at the beginning, Tyler, two words that go beautifully together, and it's answering the question, what is meaningful progress? And so if a leader can understand that for their team, then that allows them to sort of connect with, are we going in the right direction? So there's a lot of work around what's noise and what is meaningful progress. And I've heard the flip of meaningful progress, naive progress, or what was the other one? Delusional progress, I think somebody called it. And when you just stop and think about those, you're like, oh, yes, we do that all the time. So what is meaningful progress, and how are you prioritizing that for your team? And that's work for the leader before it becomes work for the team, because you have to understand that, be able to articulate that, and be able to hold that as a priority yourself. Which
is arguably part of that. If you look at the leader definition, that's part of the stewarding a vision. Mm-hmm. Stewarding if we get, this is what here might look like, and now let's work together to see if we can get there, versus we're just going to be busy and call it meaningful.
Yeah,
I
like,
can organize my desk
too.
And it feels good, but did it move anything forward for the bigger goals? Probably not. But maybe it set me up for a better day. I don't know. I don't want to judge.
There you go.
I don't want to judge a clean desk.
It's a good job you can't see my desk because it is not clean.
Podcasts are just from waist up. I think it keeps it much more neutral for everyone.
It is my saving grace, any screen moment. And then, but I think within that meaningful progress, I think there's real richness. We're talking about the pause. With your team as well, our danger, our go-to, do it quickly, is, okay, meaningful progress, I'm going to put a metric on that. And then once again, we're driven by the metric, and that can derail us really quickly, because performance is not about the metric. So for a leader in that pause, in that what is meaningful progress, what does that look like, really look like? And that's a great conversation to have with your team. And then to come right back to your first question that you asked me, leaders for themselves, we've got to lean back into, and we mentioned them briefly, but those intelligences that we work with in all the time, that emotional intelligence, that's your delivery system. And one of the quickest ways to improve your sort of connection with your team is to really understand how you're showing up, that self-awareness part. And in that self-awareness, you're choosing how you show up. It is a choice. Some people don't like that sentence, but it is a choice. And
Jenny,
also
it is
then
much easier to blame why I am the way I am, not that I had a choice. Like, so let's take it easy with this whole choice business.
No, it's all your choice.
A friend of mine, a coach, he always used to say, well, choice, no choice. You can choose not to think you have a choice. It's still your choice. I'm like, choice, no choice. He'd say it all the time.
Yeah. And there lies the heart of it.
Triggers,
and then
triggered, buttons pushed.
That's the other part too, is are you aware of those? Because we'll shift into that state, which is different than the one you chose to show up in. Like, you come to a meeting with the right energy and with, let's say you've had some time, with the right preparation, but one sentence, one look, one nudge from somebody in the wrong direction, and that is a trigger. And now you're in overextension and you're using different language, you're coming from a different angle, and that can derail us really quickly.
It reminds me of a journey that I'm on right now as a dog parent. I've learned the difference of voluntary and involuntary reactivity. And I'm like, my wife's like, Tyler, did any of these resonate with you? I'm like, shut up, Fiona. Where something will happen and you will, and she, who is the most precious, most beautiful dog in the world, will react like a mad, crazy person. But it's, as I'm learning, it's completely outside of her control. It's just a trigger, and her instinct kicks in, and she wants to hurt it, bite it, bark at it, stop it, whatever. She's an Australian Shepherd. How often do we become overstimulated Australian Shepherds in meetings? And it's involuntary. Like, someone does something that drives a trigger in you. And this comes back to something I always camp out on when we chat. How much of that is still personal responsibility to know, like taking something from like, oh, I want to react. Oh, I see that. I see it. I feel it. I recognize it. I'll get it under control before it blows up the meeting. And I say blow up and remove psychological safety, derails what meaningful progress is. But so much of that, as humans, it's involuntary because it's embedded in some type of a trigger that's probably been there for years. We don't even know how it got there or where it came from. But we certainly know when it shows up, but it's often too late. The gun's already gone off.
Yes, it feels involuntary. And we're wired. We're so wired to pick up threat and to pick up resistance. And many people before me on your show, Tyler, have talked about amygdala hijack, and that amygdala is the little part in your brain, and it sort of reacts really quickly, but it reacts on everything that is attached to your emotional memory, and it remembers your emotional memory better than you do. So all of a sudden, somebody can use a phrase that a significant other at school, let's take a teacher, may have used at school, and immediately your brain is like, okay, got to protect you. That's a threat. I'm going to protect you. And if you can have that self-awareness, say, God, I feel really angry at that comment. This is all in the back of your head. Yeah. What's made me angry? Oh, that's because I felt like I did when I was 12 and I got put down the whole time. And now I feel like I'm, the idiot in the classroom, for want of a better expression.
Level of self-awareness in the moment under a heightened emotional pressure state to be able to grab that, think about it, process it, and get it under control. Yes. Now, talk about something that takes practice.
Yeah, exactly. And that's work. And let's come right back to where we started. Our working leaders are like, leadership, really, leaders nowadays in their calendar, in an ideal world, where is your time to learn? Like, leaders need to be learning. We're moving so fast that if a leader isn't learning and sharing that learning, their team can't keep up with the fast either. They're not keeping up with the fast. And then we think about, okay, so where would everybody's head go to and what I need to learn? For most, it's not coming back to emotional intelligence. And yet, that would be a very good investment of time. I'm biased, I have to say that out loud on here. But if we can't learn and lead, if we don't have those fundamental human skills in place, and the more that we use the the artificial intelligences that are coming in, and they are just that. Like, we have to listen to the language there. They're artificial. So there is no empathy, no growth, no flourishing. You can ask ChatGPT, well, how do I learn this? How do I become an expert in that? And it might give you a part of a route to take, or a journey, or a catalyst. Like, I really like GPT as a catalyst for, I could think of this, and I never trust it. And when it comes to people, the key that it misses, so you could say, okay, what does Jennie need to become a better this? Because that's what we need for our company. It has no idea of how Jennie would like to flourish and grow. And that's the part that leaders have to keep coming back to, is what is it in that person that engages that person? And do it that way. And they have to do that for themselves as well. What is it that I'm missing, that I need? Not what somebody else tells me. It's for me, so that I can show up in the way that I want to. And that takes time, and that requires you to get off the bus and learn it before you get back on
again. And it also takes a moment of, maybe I'm not perfect to start with. Like, there is that moment of, like, I recognizing, admitting, one of the steps, I'm sure, on the journey of, okay, I always used to joke years ago, I had behaviors that were closing more doors than they were opening. So that was my, like, I need to stop being more reactive. I need to stop being as reactive, to start letting, I love to indulge and jump to a conclusion and get things done fast, because I enjoy that. But then I realized it was shutting everyone down on my team, and I had some 360 feedback around that. And, I had to frame it up in a way that I found amusing. Like, I have closing more doors than it's opening. As soon as I say it, I immediately take on it. I can physically feel it. But I chose to engage in that, and I chose to get the feedback, and it was not comfortable. I'm going to do a little plug, because I've just been listening to it. I'm about halfway through The Atlas of the Heart by Brené Brown. I'm not a big Brené Brown fan, only because she's so popular. Even though I love her, she's great. Sometimes when something's too popular, I run the other way, which I don't. Let's not get into what that is. But I'm like, she's super popular, I'm not going to listen. But when I do, the way she unpacks emotions and how we respond, and even defining, and like, what is envy versus jealousy, and what is nostalgia, and the definition of understanding it, and how much more capable we are to deal with it, even if we know how to define it. Even at the simple level, it's worth listening to that, to listening or reading that book just for that.
It's excellent text, and actually the beauty of it is you can dip in and out. I feel like this, or how do I feel? Like, it's like a little treasure map as to what's going on.
And she's so authentic in the way she shares her. Like, this is research based. So let me talk about when I lost my mind. Like, she's so human that way. She's lovely.
It's very human. And the key, I think there's two really big keys in what you just said, Tyler. The first one is the ability to ask for feedback and take feedback on. That is a skill set.
That's a big part of it right there. Huge.
So that's a big conversation, and it's a funny one in leadership, because you ask many leaders about feedback, and textbook they will tell you, when you're giving it, remember this. When you're receiving it, remember this. And still, we are generally dreadful. We'll run away from those conversations, taking it on. We don't. We tend to cause a tension with that feedback, and worst case, what we see a lot of is leaders saying, look, just be like me and you'll be fine. Well, that person in front of you doesn't want to be like you.
My fixed mindset wants compliments in the form of feedback. Like, let's be clear what I'm asking for. My growth mindset is a whole different thing. Like, those are two different people at the party.
So it's a disaster, and then someone dresses it up and says, no, it's a gift. There are very few people.
You mean a feedback sandwich? Like, take your sandwich and shove it.
Okay, that's well out of date. I promise you, the sandwiches have gone by since Best Buy day.
Oh, my goodness. I tried that for a while. I'm like, this is terrible.
No.
And then I had one of my friends in senior HR. She's like, let me tell you why this is the worst way to get feedback.
Yeah, 100% it is.
There's people still do it. Because you have to be so careful with those things, because they're so easy to remember. Why do they hang around? Because they're easy. I've got a formula and it works. No, it doesn't actually work. But more importantly, I remember it, so that's what I use. And I find those little lessons or things. I was talking to an advanced chiropractor, and he talked about why rest and ice, compression and elevation, RICE, has been around forever. And he goes, most of it has been disproven. But he goes, you go to an athletic event and you still see people doing it because it's just familiar and you feel like you're doing something, so you latch onto it. I think leadership is full of those things.
I live in the world of acronyms. I can throw all kinds at you. The other thing I wanted just to note for leaders who are listening, like you talked about the Atlas of Emotions, and it's brilliant, it's really good work, is knowing how you're feeling is one thing for a leader. How are you expressing that is the really important piece. And again, like back to what you were saying, Tyler, for years, leaders were told, don't bring your emotions to work. Like, just don't let your team know. And so you stuff it and you stuff it and you do nothing. And that's, for people who are working for you, that's like working for a brick wall. And I would much rather know that you're frustrated or delighted. Like, either way, it doesn't matter. Because then I know, okay, so this attaches to that. That gives me the connection to you. That makes you real. And that's what we're looking for in a leader, is we want that connection. We don't want to work for a brick wall. And if I don't know that you're disappointed or frustrated, well, then I'll just keep doing it because I don't know. And so we've solved nothing.
But the problem is we usually do know. And we can feel it because we're very intuitive.
There you go.
Back
Yes,
to your
we
point
can.
about sensing threats. You have an interaction with someone, you're like, they didn't say anything, but something doesn't feel right. And some people are more or less, but I do believe we all have it. It's part of how we navigate. And
exactly.
My business partner always used to say, I don't know where he picked it up from, but it's like, we wait till we have trust to be vulnerable, but the second we're vulnerable, we create trust. And how we usually get it wrong. We usually get it in reverse. And I've always loved that. And the older I've gotten and the more comfortable I've gotten showing up, honestly, way better connection every time, all the time. Like, it is proven more and more. It opens more doors than it closes. Let me do the reverse of my
We're back there again. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's true.
But there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of I don't want to say confidence, but how do you feel safe? How do you feel safe? Back to just use safety.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then so that psychological safety stems out of the trust that leaders build, and trust starts with trusting yourself. And then trusting the people around you. And then that allows us to build that blanket of emotional care, which sits within psychological safety. And it's at that point, I think, where the humility that you've been speaking to really shows up as well. Because if we have the trust, if we have the psychological safety, it becomes easy for me to say to you, Tyler, I don't know. Can you give me more clarity on that? Or can you explain that? And that allows me, in whatever position I'm in, I don't have to be perfect. And it's funny to me, we've done it for so long, we've held leaders on that pedestal that you talked about, and they have to be perfect, they have to have the answers, they have to know where we're going. These days, nobody has the answers, nobody knows, and we can dive down.
It's too complicated.
Yeah. So there's that curiosity that, you speak so eloquently about, is how are we holding that curiosity with that humility? All in that focus. Let's bring it back to what is meaningful progress, because curiosity can take us 101 different ways. We've got to keep it in that. So,
thinking about, I'm going 100 mile an hour. I'm a working leader. I don't have a lot of bandwidth. There might be an argument that showing up authentic is actually the only thing I have time for, because it's not contrived. I don't have to make it up. I don't have to rehearse it. I don't have to build this how I'm going to exactly talk to this person, and I'm going to switch it when this person comes in the room. It's almost impossible, because the only thing you can actually do consistently at speed is be you. How do you manage the balance between what is also, I'm going to use the word appropriate. I don't know if it's appropriate or not. I don't know if it's accurate. You're still at work. So talk to me about even that person's like, I'm going to show up authentic. And then all of a sudden that blows up, and then their boss gets on them. They go, you told me to be me, but me wasn't appropriate in this setting. How do you balance out, is there still guardrails, and how do we know where they are in this very, very crazy world we live in?
Oh, that's a huge question right there. The answer is yes. And
okay, tell me more.
Yes, thank you. Double click on there. So I always smile when people say, bring your authentic work to self, or bring your authentic self to work. There you go. And the smile is because we're back to that word choice. So you know you the best. And
sometimes.
Yes, okay, fair. And we basically have 3 personas that we show up as. And there's an assessment that I use, Lumina, and they talk about these 3 personas, and I find them really effective. And the first persona is, Tyler, you on a Sunday, right? That's your underlying Tyler. That's, with your closest friends, with your wife, with your Australian sheepdog, if I've got that the right way. Okay, that's real Tyler, and it's unfiltered, it's comfortable. That's you. And then there's everyday Tyler, and that's how you choose to show up. So the way that you show up in conversation here, you've made those choices. You are dialing up some of the stuff that's in underlying, and you're probably dialing back on some of the things.
This is podcast, Tyler. It's one of my favorites, to be clear.
There you go. Yeah. And you'll move into, you'll have CEO Tyler later today.
CEO's coming. CEO Tyler has some meetings later today. 100%.
There you go. Okay. So you'll show up. That everyday Tyler is, again, it's different. You're not going to see the Sunday back deck, maybe beers in hand, maybe not, like whatever. Yep. Tyler in the CEO hat. And then the third one is the overextended one. And we all have all three, and it's really different for us in terms of all three. So for a leader, the first thing is, one, know you, but two, the awareness stems to what's going on around us. And so, as you said earlier, we can pick up cues, we can read a room, we can feel the emotions that are in there. And so to the extent that we want to be authentic is a choice. Like if the authentic version, and I wouldn't imagine for a minute this was you, Tyler, but the authentic version of you is a vibrant, fly off the handle, throw the emotions everywhere in reaction to something. When you've got your CEO hat on, there's a role that you're playing, and that's not going to work for that role. And so authentically, okay, this has made me frustrated, and I'm angry at this situation, and here's why, rather than throwing something across the table. Like, there's a really exaggerated version.
No, but it's exaggerated examples help for understanding, so I think that's great.
Thank you. But we're back to choice, and we're back to awareness, and those take time. Like there's many people who look at themselves in the mirror every day when they go to work, and they check that they're dressed appropriately for how they're going to show up, or before they go on screen, like whatever that part is. And yet they don't really know what it is that puts them into that overextension, or what it is that causes them to close down and stop talking because there's a tad of imposter syndrome in there, or and that's the awareness. It's really understanding you and how you're coming to the table. And then some people need strategies with that so that they do put their best voice forwards, because there is a value and a contribution there. That's what we want to see. And others need this strategy to the example we had earlier. There's that one word. My brain wants to go into amygdala hijack and really overreact. And actually, if I just take the 6 seconds, pause, and respond, I can still have all the emotion of the situation, but I haven't ruined a relationship, broken trust, put a crack in that safe culture that we had.
I love the concept of multiple selves. And I think I talked about this in the keynote that you gave me an amazing opportunity to do at one of your events. James Fadiman, the Symphony of Selves, talking about how over the years, and he had an interesting, and I don't want to go down a weird rabbit hole here, but he aligned it very heavily to as we became more a single deity society, where in the early days we were multiple. There was a deity for the nature and the weather, and there was a god for everything. As we went to a one god model through Christianity, and he talks a little bit about that, there started to become this belief that we now as humans should only be one version of ourselves and one version only. And he was dispelling that myth and how it has caused a lot of challenges in our society, because there was your home self, there's a work self, there's the go and play pickup hockey self, and so many versions, and that was okay. And the more we were aware of it, and the more we embraced it, the more free we would be, flexible to move between what was appropriate for the time. And that's where I did my little exercise where I had my notepad and I had add and detract. And I would write down after a meeting which version I thought showed up, and did that actually, I felt, add to the meeting or take away from the meeting. And during COVID, I had lots of practice with many Zoom calls. And it was amazing over time. I very quickly realized the reactive or the defensive or the emotionally triggered self didn't get good outcomes in meetings. It's weird. But I spent that time, and that's how my brain works. It's like when I started tracking my sleep and I went, oh, when I get more sleep, I feel better. So therefore, I should get more sleep. That little piece of sometimes self-reflective data for me, and everyone has their own version of that, started to become, oh, wait a second, overindulgent, anxious, loves to jump to the end self is really kicking in right now. Let's get that under control, because they can be very indulgent. But unless I kept that little scorecard, I would have had a hard time. I'd talked about it with many, many coaches and many leaders over the years until I actually had it staring back to me on my paper.
Yeah.
I didn't get a handle over it. And that took like a month of like, I would argue, a tiny bit of self-reflection, and it yielded some pretty interesting awareness.
And I think that's a really good example of how to bring this to the forefront, because working leaders are too busy in their worlds already. Yeah. And that's not difficult to do. That's a post-it note, pad of paper, as you said, next to you each time. And what I really like about it is it's looking for the patterns. And I spend a lot of time saying to people, before you do anything, just look for the patterns. And so self-doubt and imposter syndrome is a really good one. There's nothing actually wrong with imposter syndrome. It's how we use it. And so where are the situations where I do feel confident and ready to show up and ready to contribute? And what is the pattern for when I don't? And when you start to look at patterns, is it people? Is it context? Is it a situation? Is it a subject area? You'll see them when you take a practice like that and run it, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. And then from there, what is the action that will immediately help this to make it easier? And that action, I think the other thing that we have to be really sort of set with is it's got to be small. Because where you already feel that you're at capacity and working too fast and too furious, you don't have time to change the world. You have time to make a 1% tweak. And if you do that 1% consistently, then it changes really quickly for you.
Giving yourself permission to go, yes, I'm overwhelmed. And yes, I want different outcomes. The wholesale change, it's so you stop before you started. Like, I don't work out, but now I'm going to start 5 days a week. I have so many friends. By day 4, like, this is too much. I'm like, start, like, if you want to do 5 days, do 15 minutes. Don't go to the gym for 2 hours. And like, there's so many ways you can see it physically manifesting, but mentally we do that to ourselves a lot. And you've got a high achieving, high performing, push, get shit done kind of leader. And then you ask them to take baby steps. Like, they almost conflict immediately.
I know, it is, yeah.
You got to where you are because you're those other things. But in this case, it might not serve you.
Exactly. And this comes back to that. We were talking about it before. People always say, look after yourself first. And I think the adage is put your oxygen mask on.
Sorry.
And
we both went to the same one. Yes, totally.
That's it. But the key is, here's the key. Where does your oxygen come from? And are you getting enough of that to that, that whole, we can do this when, for yours it was, if I have enough sleep, then I can show up in the way that's more proactive and productive.
I feel better.
Okay, so your oxygen comes from your sleep, and your oxygen probably comes from that nice long walk with your dog, with your wife, whatever else. I don't know, but maybe that's where your oxygen comes from.
I've learned there's a myriad of things.
Yeah, great. And know them. That's the key, learn them. And some of our leaders are too busy to even know where their oxygen comes from. And so they're like, okay, I'll take care of myself first. Yeah, good. And if we don't even have that knowledge, we're never starting with our feet on the ground. There's so many people, and if you just watch for the next week, talking and paying attention, there's so many people who are 1 foot on their tiptoes, unbalanced, just ready to tip at any moment. And if we could just put both feet on the ground and say, what is this situation cause for, or where do I need to go? What's the next best step? I'm sure that's a Disney line somewhere. And then, but that only comes when you've got 2 feet on the ground. And 2 feet on the ground only comes when I know what I need to be able to come back to base, put 2 feet on the ground.
Are we seeing, we've talked a lot about obviously COVID and the contributing factors to more and more fast, go. We've also seen a huge backlash of people going, no, I'm not going to work 80 hours a week because that's not important to me. I'm going to do things differently. I'm going to, I look at our own culture, and this morning I reached out on Slack to the water cooler channels, like, hey, what did you all do this weekend? The amount of diversity in the music festivals and like the positivity and the pictures with family and just the level of engagement I'm seeing. And we've gone to a remote model where team members don't have to commute anymore. So we've seen a lot more balance. And in turn, because we track it, we have a higher output and a better culture. And we attract people now that are like, I left my other job because they wanted me in the office 50 hours a week, and I just refused. So what about that balance where, because if I'm a leader that's all about, I got to see you and work with you, but yet I have a whole workforce that's like, no, I'm ready to work hard, but I have boundaries now. I think COVID's done that too. So those things really polarize each other.
They do.
Thoughts on how the world of work is navigating that balance?
Yeah. In so many different ways, and some are getting it really right and some aren't. But I think the key is that we as workers have recognized we do have a choice, and there are some companies like your own that are fully remote and get it, and there are some companies where you can go to work 5 days a week or 3 days a week.
Yeah, and they might still get it too. This is just our version and it's working for us. I always want to put the asterisks on it, right? Mm-hmm.
And I think the key, I think there's a couple of keys within this when you're looking at it. Humans have a need to belong. Right? We have an innate desire to belong and to have connection, and COVID gave us that, like the sort of reminder of that. Yeah. We really saw that come to the forefront.
Tribes and villages.
Yes. And so, for the companies that are scared of, well, if I don't have my people together, they won't be able to connect. Absolutely rubbish. You can connect when you run a remote or a virtual
There was
company.
A lot of people that had their people all in the same office and they weren't connected then.
Exactly.
I also find we romanticize. Remember when everyone was in the office and our culture was amazing? I'm like, was it really amazing? Maybe.
Good question.
I got $5 because it wasn't. And they weren't nearly as productive as you think they might have been. I saw them at their desk while they were planning their vacation. Like, come on. Like, let's be realistic.
Bingo. There you go. Okay. So there's so many different versions of that.
Here.
Yeah. There's a lot of different versions. And so I think what we're trying to get better at, and some molded to it really quickly because it came naturally, and some are still learning, is what is the purpose of bringing people together, and are we effective when we bring people together? And that can run across your virtual platform, or that can run in your face-to-face platform. And the other part that's curious to me, and this is an avenue that I never go down, but it sort of captures me, is when you look at downtown Calgary with those big office blocks, that surely is an asset that a company has money in. Like, there's got to be a big equation there that's 100% in the mix, and that's an area that's not my stream.
But the argument quickly gets into remote versus in-home, and culture versus work capacity versus we have a huge sunk cost because we spent X amount of millions of dollars to build out this thing, and that's a factor, and it often doesn't get, like, I would personally appreciate more if there's like, no, we've got a huge investment in this and we're going to use it. Oh, well, at least you're being honest, thank you, versus saying, no, this is the only way we can have a good culture, which I'm like, the pushback becomes the fact that you're kind of lying a little bit. Just be honest give me all your motivations, and then we can have a good debate about it.
and we're back to that authenticity.
That was very finger pointing about that one, I realized.
but it's true, and it's part of the conversation, and it's a difficult conversation.
Yes.
And we're breaking trust, because if we're lying, we're breaking trust.
Jenny. It's difficult because it matters.
Yeah, it is, and it's emotional because I care. Yeah. And at the end of the day, that's
good. There's no crying in baseball. Back to the fact we just have to be okay being emotional at work, because we are.
Yes. Well, we're human, so that comes with it.
And you've been doing what you've been doing for quite a while, which meaning that you've had a lot of experiences working with different leaders at different levels over different periods of time. What are you seeing? Like, where is your optimism or your frustration, maybe both, or maybe those aren't good opposing words, when you look at the next couple of years with the conversations because you're in the trenches, you go to their offices, you meet them online, you talk with them, the proverbial them. What are you seeing, and what gets you excited, and where do we still tripping over our own feet?
Let's go excitement first.
Excellent choice.
Might regret that in a minute, but no, I am excited because I think we are waking up to human potential, and the key word in there is human. And we will always be driven towards the mysterious and the twinkly, and at the moment that's the AI and all the other stuff there. We're always drawn that way, but I think that we're recognizing the human part even more. I think if you're willing to read between the lines, human keeps popping out, and the need for the connection to drive that potential. And it's always about performance. Performance is, as you well know, one of my absolute soapboxes. So that's exciting to me, and people really understanding what does it mean to create a space where everybody can show up and have a conversation that leads to better, that elevates what we're doing.
I want Craig to get you a T-shirt that says "Waking Up to Human Potential" that you get to wear when you go on site. I love it. But I love that you brought that to performance. I'm waking up to human potential with the ultimate outcome of performance, and how does everything set us up for that? Because that's people that connect. That's a team that gels. That's back to, you and I think I've done a past episode of like, don't put a bunch of people together and call it high performing team. No, it's just a work group. You need a lot of different things to make a high performing team, and human potential is the grist, is the ingredients for that outcome.
Absolutely. And as a leader, you get to create that environment and the conditions that cause that to happen. So that
the privilege or the gift of leadership.
There you go, 100%. And
we could stop right there, but I feel we're going to now talk about the negative.
Well, this is why I said we might regret it, because now we have to go down. But I think the negative, I get really cross when people say this is an opportunity to. I'm not dressing it up. Like, just stop dressing it up. It's when we call weaknesses opportunities. I'm like, no, weakness is a weakness. It weakens you. We trip over our feet when we forget the humans. We trip over our feet when we forget that that person in front of you is an adult with a skill set. And let's face it, in these times, they have worked really, really hard to get the job that they have. They chose to work for you because they went through interviews, they went through algorithms, they gave up their references. Like they've basically voted for you with a lot of hours in their life. And when leaders forget that part, that's where we trip over. And the great part about that is it's an easy fix. We're back to where we started on the excitement. That human in front of you is part of a potential.
With the leaders that you chat with, like when the doors are closed and you're having the one-on-one, is there the employer? It's like the landlord or the renter. There's always this struggle. It feels like it's never been more balanced because, like, I actually think that one side has more power than the other side. I think the employee, just for lack of a better term, has more power. They can go anywhere. They can find a company that's the other side of the world. They can work for them. They could move to the middle of nowhere as long as they had good internet, which now they do with Starlink, and they can work. As I think we should be, I'm putting myself in that, as the employer, be on our back foot, because if we don't show value, that employee has ultimate flexibility, especially these people we're talking about that have invested, they've educated, they have skills. They've worked on themselves. They are a huge asset that is highly, highly mobile. Are leaders admitting that and realizing that? Because that alone should force you to look at things differently as a leader or as an employer.
I think it depends where you've been and what your context is now. There's a
and
good
what journey you've been on, for sure. Yeah,
yes, and most leaders, I do some C-suite work. A lot of leaders that I work with are front, middle, working their way up, if there is still such a thing. There's lots of people who aren't bothered by that hierarchy anymore. But I think what you described as the employee's advantage, that's actually, let's call it human advantage. We all have that advantage, and a leader does too. And unfortunately, in some of the work that I do, I hear leaders say, well, it's the level above me that needs the help. And
I have heard that said as well.
Yes. So I think we all have that advantage, and I think the key of what you said within there is the value and the contribution. And if we keep looking at, in fact, let's go right back to where we were, I don't know, almost an hour ago now, that meaningful progress. What is value and what is contribution? Because when we all get to do that, whether it's leader to team member or team member up to leader, like whichever way that's going, value and contribution is meaningful progress. Just checking boxes and sort of running through inertia is rarely meaningful progress.
Inertia is a powerful concept.
It is. Yes.
I used to think it meant movement. Then I learned, like, for some reason, just the way the word sounded, I always thought that. And one day I was like, oh, and this is many years ago, to be clear. I'm like, oh, it actually means the opposite of that. It means movement, but in the same track over and over and over again.
Yeah.
The inability to get out of the set of ruts that you've so clearly created in your life or in your neurology, and that's the whole other thing. Breaking out of the patterns of how we've done it or how we've been led, and so much of that, and with so many different cultures, generations, different. Like, there's so much diversity all jammed into a quote unquote high performance team.
That could be another conversation for another day.
You know what? It might be. Don't threaten me with a good time, Jenny. Don't threaten me with a good time. And one thing we originally were going to talk about was really the role technology plays, and I think that's another episode. You got me so inspired or curious, which is my favorite thing, my guilty pleasure, around the concept of working leaders and how real that is. And I think I shared with you a little bit. Sometimes I've encountered in my industry, i.e. marketing, that there's a level of seniority, sometimes in bigger cities where they have bigger, marketing agencies, where all of a sudden, I'm a leader now, I don't have to do the work. And it being the gritty entrepreneur going, wait, what? Where did that? I don't understand that. And financially, one, I don't think it actually is support. I don't think it actually works or supports, depending on the size of your team. But I know so many professional services, lawyers, accountants, engineers. They work. They roll up their sleeves. They do the billable hour while also being responsible for groups of people. Mm-hmm. And like you said, 40 hours. Most of them would laugh and roll their eyes at you when you say 40 hours, because they're not doing less. They're doing probably double that sometimes, especially at some of the big firms, because they're doing both.
Yes. And I think, like we said at the beginning, or hopefully we did, the important part there is you have to know how much is too much. And so, for great leadership within an organization, a working leader, to the way that we've defined it, isn't always a completely healthy setup. And so, yes, we're going to do some work. Yes, we're still going to be able to roll up our sleeves. And there's so much more in order to lead high performance teams. So if we want that people leadership, how are we looking at the way the leadership culture within an organization, the leadership demands? What is, Tyler, some organizations might benefit from starting with, what does leadership even mean in our organization?
And if you're the leader of the leaders, if you're the leader of the working leaders, be very careful what you're measuring them on.
Oh, please. Yes.
Because I guarantee the billable hour is playing a huge part in driving that, especially in service-based firms. I'm just picking out those because we, and again, I work in that world, we're so focused on the output of the work to the client. And they're not widgets. They're thinking and they're planning and they're figuring out problems, which is a very human exercise.
And then add to that, they're listening and they're supporting and they're all the other great people pieces that come. It's too much in a lot of places. I worry about that for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. And the more technically oriented the role, I've often found, the more often that individual has been rewarded for their technical prowess over the course of their career as they've come up through the ranks. To your point about rising to when becoming a leader or a manager, hey, would you like to work twice as hard for half the money? It kind of becomes that joke really quickly.
Somebody talked about that recently too, and are you really going to make that decision when you're looking at a promotion to take equivalently not much more money and to live a life that, we mentioned balance earlier, to live a life that's going to take your balance away from you? Think about that decision carefully as you design the next version, the next role that you will show up in.
And I think that foregone conclusion that you want to climb the corporate ladder, that's when people are like, I had a really good friend of mine, I think I've shared this, she works at a large railway, and she works in benefits, and she said, I'm happy to come here, but my one criteria is I don't want to manage people. And will that limit my growth here? And they said, absolutely not. And she's been there 4 years. She's like, I think I will finish my career here. And she has quite a few years left. She's young in her career because they heard her. They created a role that allowed her to continue to grow based on her skills and her knowledge access and the training and courses she took. And she's grown promotion-wise, role-wise, never had to take on management of people.
Brilliant.
Because they made that agreement when they started and they've held to it. And she still brings it up. She goes, I will literally, one, they heard me. Two, I'm growing in my career every year, and I didn't have to do the one thing that I knew was a non-negotiable. I've been around enough to know that that's not something I wanted to do. And not a lot of organizations, usually one goes with the other. Promotion means now you have to do this. And I don't know, I think we all know the organization because it's a large railway. It was recently on strike. It's recently on strike.
We live in Canada. That's
we
kind
do.
of your choice.
Yeah. Well, let's talk very clandestine. I don't need to get specific. There's two, so it could be one or the other, even though they both are if you want to read a really interesting book about leadership, I would read Railroader, the Hunter Harrison story.
Okay.
It's cringeworthy.
Oh. All right.
This was a leader that came out of the railroading world of the 50s in the U.S.
Ah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm not sure how he didn't. I don't even know how people. And I know people that used to work for him. They're like, we still have 1,000 people on stress leave because of working under that leader.
Oh, gracious.
So it's quite a good. If you want to read a biography about wow, what it's good because it is eye opening in terms of a world and in terms of a leadership style that still got results, but what results at what cost, right? And I think the book sums it up well. Yeah.
Yeah, and the key with that is everybody who worked under that person. That's the leadership that was modeled. That's a lot of what we're working with is, we learn our leadership from our other leaders. And
one of his proteges is, because he passed away, one of his proteges is running the company now. And my friend, she sent it to me. She's like, this book's been circulating internally. Like, hey, if you want to understand how our culture is the way it is, read this book. So it was quite interesting and not necessarily in an all positive way, but yet grew the organization, created shareholder value, definitely delivered financial metrics. But the human metrics were rough.
Yeah, and that's a cost. That's a huge 100%. Cost within that. And full credit to your friend too, for knowing that she didn't want to lead other people. Yeah. If you're going to be a leader, you have to like people. That's the first. And I'm not suggesting she doesn't like people, but
no, she might not argue with you. She might not argue.
but that's such a great place. Talk about self-awareness. I know I don't want to lead people brilliant. So where do I go next with that? And then the other part in there is, can companies still offer growth? And the answer is yes. There's just not enough of them doing it.
Yeah. And it's interesting. She's a benefits expert. So the work she does directly benefits people. She just didn't want to talk to them. And so it's funny. She's like, and she's the nuance of benefits at a large corp like that, and just all of the, what works its way through to the employee and what they understand they're getting versus not. And so it's a very human-centric role, yet she just didn't want to have any direct reports.
Good for her.
I admire that. And what I love, I respect her for the journey, and I know how she got there. But the fact the company said yes, and 5 years in, they're kind of sticking with their word. That's probably more impressive because we know what happens over time. You wiggle your way over, and the more you perform, the more someone wants to put you in a leadership role.
Yeah, no, it's impressive all round.
Jenny, thank you again for a lovely, lovely conversation. I know the audience will enjoy it. I always enjoy it.
And thank you. It was a pleasure. I just love how emergent they are. We have no idea where we're going. And no idea where we'll end up.
We seem to get there. We seem to get there.
We did. It was excellent.
If anyone wants to learn more about the programs that you offer, is the best to go to SAIT, go to the corporate training, the School for Advanced Leadership. I know that's your tag, not your name.
Yeah, so two avenues. If you're looking for me, LinkedIn, you'll find me on LinkedIn, Jennie Gilbert. And then if you're curious to that leadership program, SAIT Corporate Training also has a LinkedIn profile. So you can go there, follow them. You'll see everything that's coming up. Or head across to SAIT's website, Corporate Training. You'll find everything SAIT over there. And there's an army of Jennies over there. So there's no shortage of people.
Are you still doing your Friday morning webinars, you and Craig?
We are, yes. So every other Friday morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, always free. SAIT's LinkedIn is probably a good place to find
always great content. So yeah, I would recommend checking that out. I just hadn't seen it floating around in my inbox for a while, so I didn't know. I assumed you still were doing it.
It's coming back soon, yes.
Amazing. Jenny, thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Tyler, thank you. It's always a pleasure, and I am looking forward to the next one already too. Cool.